Let's bring in former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree. Okay, Tom, it's good to see you again. Thanks for joining us. We've got former President Trump. He says he'll be at that jail in Atlanta for his indictment Thursday in Georgia, but two other co-defendants. What do you think of this, Tom? Can Trump take this route? We've got former DOJ lawyer Jeffrey Clark, former Georgia GOP party chair David Schaefer. They're filing paperwork to transfer their case out of state court to federal court. Can Trump do that?
Well, let me put it this way. If those guys can do that, then Trump presumably should be allowed to do that. And Liz, it's kind of an interesting decision in that, at least so far, Trump is not attempting to do this. It looks like he's going to go to Atlanta and surrender rather than try to fight that process and propel his case into federal court. I do think those guys who are trying to get the federal judge to basically say they don't need to surrender for now, they've got an uphill battle. It's a tough legal argument. Wouldn't surprise me if the federal judge basically said, hey, guys, I'll hear your arguments about why this case should be in federal court later, but for the time being, you need to go surrender in Atlanta.
You know, so, Tom, so you think the former President Trump could do that? Is that what your thinking is on this?
Well, my thinking is that he could make that request, since these other guys who I think have less compelling arguments than former President Trump would to make that request are presenting that request. That said, it doesn't mean that the federal judge would grant former President Trump that relief. He's apparently prepared to surrender already in Atlanta. He's not looking to get some sort of 11th hour order from a federal judge that would prevent him from having to go to Atlanta. Okay. So, yes, he could present that request. But as to whether or not a federal judge would actually grant it and prevent him from having to go to Atlanta is a more difficult question.
That's really interesting what you just said. You know, the former President Trump's, the campaign dates are going to clash with his court dates. And you got the Justice Department pushing back against the former president's request for a 2026 trial date. Let's hold that full screen up there so the viewer can see and digest what's going on. So, you know, they want a speedy trial before the 2024 election. Trump is saying April 2026. The judge on the case is going to have a hearing, trial date hearing, August 28th. I mean, if DOJ prosecutors get their way, Trump would face two federal criminal trials before the 2024 race, Tom.
Well, that's right. I mean, look, it's a practical matter. You cannot have a defendant who's expected to be in two courtrooms at once defending himself against two criminal charges at the same time. It can't happen. There has to be some sort of coordination to ensure that former President Trump, and in cases where he has co-defendants, his co-defendants get a fair trial. And so I think that means that either the judges or the prosecutors or someone need to coordinate to prevent everything from all unfolding at the same time, which, to your point, would be completely impossible.
Are you saying there's constitutional issues, fair trial, due process rights here for the former president in terms of how these trials are unfolding, that he needs time to prepare? Is that what you're saying, Tom? He could invoke constitutional rights.
Absolutely, Liz, as could any defendant. In other words, yes, he is a former president of the United States, but that doesn't mean that he's not entitled to the same constitutional defenses, the same right to a fair trial as all other criminal defendants in the United States.
Got it. Tom Dupree, you're terrific. We'll have you back on soon.